Welcome in. I'm Austin Westfall. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant promised an Israeli strike against Iran will be lethal, precise, and surprising. And he's saying this as U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a call on Wednesday discussing tensions with Iran. Reuters says that the 30-minute call was the first known chat for Biden and Netanyahu since August, and it comes a little over a week after Iran's flimsy direct attack on Israel. Retired Marine Intelligence Officer Hal Kempfer standing by. Hal, as always, thanks for coming on. Let's get straight into this. So, the Middle East has been on edge, basically, awaiting Israel's response to Iran's missile attack. Minister Gallant saying after Biden and Netanyahu's call that, quote, "Whoever attacks us will be hurt and will pay a price. Our attack will be deadly, precise, and above all, surprising. They will not understand what happened and how it happened. They will see the results," unquote. Biden has been quoted as saying Israel's response should be, quote, proportional. That's how he phrases it. So, all things considered, Hal, what are Israel's possibilities here?
Well, Austin, under international law, the law of war, the response should be proportionate. That is kind of a legal concept that's used in war, that you should use proportionate response. It shouldn't be overwhelming. Now, with that said, wars don't tend to quite roll out quid pro quo exactly even. And there are other laws of war that roll into this. With that said, that's a good admonition, certainly for the president to say. However, what is proportionate in this case? Iran launched 180 ballistic missiles towards Israel. What is proportionate to what Iran was trying to attack Israel with? That's a big question. And if you made that proportionate to what they intended, the damage they intended to inflict on Israel, that would be an overwhelming amount of damage. So it's an interesting admonition. I would say in this circumstance, I'm not quite sure what the meaning of this would be. Now, I did read some things into what Yoav Gallant was saying. He said it would be surprising, and I found that rather intriguing. Israel, as we have seen, has done some very surprising things. More recently, we saw where they did the walkie-talkie attacks and the pager attacks, which I think was one of the most innovative, dare I say, covert operations, direct action operations I've ever seen. That was phenomenal. If you want to go back a few years, a couple years, or 4 years ago, you may see where they took out what's often called the father of the Iranian atomic bomb. Now, they don't have an atomic bomb, and he was kind of the father of their nuclear program, trying to build a bomb. But Israel did a very unusual attack with a remote-controlled machine gun that fired on him as he was driving along a road, so precise that it actually took him out. But his wife was sitting next to him and didn't kill her. Wow. Rather amazing. So Israel has some interesting capabilities. And when he said that, I'm not ruling out that we might not see something on par with what we saw with the pager attacks or something like that. Not that direct methodology, not necessarily a copycat of that type of operation. But what we may see are some attacks, perhaps in places like in Tehran, that things just happen, and we're scratching our heads going, how did they do that? And that may be something we see. I think we all scratched our heads and were amazed when Hania was taken out, was basically assassinated in Tehran. That too was an amazing operation. So Israel does have some capabilities, and he kind of hinted at that direction. Although I also think they're going to do a lot of things with taking out air defense. And I would not be surprised if they put a lot of attention towards the Al-Quds force and the Revolutionary Guard Corps, since that's the force that supports the Iranian proxies throughout the region.
What do you think Biden would consider too escalatory?
Well, I think what he's worried about is taking out, of course, ironically, after he kind of let it slip that maybe they should take out the oil facilities, and then oil prices spiked. He immediately 2 days later came out and said, well, no, I didn't mean take out the oil facilities. But certainly it's come up over and over again about the nuclear facilities. And the fear is that if Israel was to go in and try to take out or attempt to take out the nuclear facilities, first off, they may not be completely successful. And second, it may actually accelerate Iranian moves into developing an atomic bomb. So there's a lot of fear about that. As it is now, there was interestingly a report of an earthquake in Iran. It was picked up, and there was speculation that maybe they were doing an underground nuclear test. Now, there's nothing from that to suggest it actually was an underground nuclear test, but it does tell you how everybody is so nervous in that area that Iran is moving forward with this simply because of the strategic situation as it's unfolding right now.
As I mentioned, this was Biden and Netanyahu's first talk since August. Does that show how fraught their relationship is right now?
It does in many ways. Interestingly, also came out today that apparently Bibi Netanyahu had a discussion with former President Donald Trump just recently, and I'm sure that was noted by the White House. And what was interesting in the course of this 30-minute call, apparently Vice President Harris jumped in on the call at some point and became part of it. The fact it went on for 30 minutes, I think, is a positive thing. The White House explanation of it being very direct, I think, is probably very accurate. I think each side spoke with great candor. It'd be my assumption from the way they described it. Netanyahu has a different strategic vision of what he sees, and you have to keep in mind that Netanyahu has achieved something rather fascinating in that you have the head of Hezbollah now, by some reports out there, begging for peace or begging for a ceasefire, but certainly asking for a ceasefire or interested in a ceasefire with Israel, completely separate and apart from what's happening in Gaza with Hamas. And that is a huge schism within the axis of resistance, the Iranian proxy group. And of course, it leaves open, well, what is Hezbollah's feelings about Israel's counterattack or attack on Iran? What would be their feelings on that? And that may be part of the negotiation that's going on with Hezbollah right now. I don't know, but that would be logical that they would be talking about a number of things that Hezbollah is going to have to agree to for a ceasefire, and that may be part of it, is to make sure that occurs. So that, to me, is an interesting development. Certainly, it puts wind in the sails of whatever Netanyahu is doing from a strategic standpoint, and I think they're going to see if they can cause more schisms throughout that Axis resistance movement as time goes on.
We'll leave it there for now, Hal. Thanks.
Thank you, Austin.